Okay, so the movie's good. Andy Serkis, by the way, is terrific in the film, and they should have him in more films where he's not CGI'd as a monkey or something. He's quite a good actor, and I really enjoyed him in the film. He plays kind of a crazy guy. Okay, so So I analyzed it as a film. Very enjoyable, very good movie. Okay, now the politics. So before I go any further, I want to point something out. I did not politicize this film. You politicized this film, media. It was you guys who made this into a big issue. I'm going to read you some of the headlines from the New York Times. Okay, these are the headlines from the New York Times about this film in the last 2 weeks alone. 1, Black Panther smashes box office records in Hollywood myths. I took 7th graders to see Black Panther. Here's what they said. Black Panther and the Revenge of the Black Nerds. How Black Panther got its gorgeous Afrocentric hair. Why Black Panther is a defining moment for Black America. Black Panther brings hope, hype, and pride. Hey, people last week were saying I was very upset that there was this movie being made. No, I'm not. I don't care whether the movie is made. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. What I care about is that the media are treating this as some sort of glorious moment. Like this is a very, very important cultural moment. It's not a very important cultural moment. I'm sorry, it isn't. There have been blockbusters with black leads, black comic book characters in films, including Nick Fury, hit movies primarily about black people for years, critically acclaimed movies about black people for years. In the last 5 years, I think, 12 Years a Slave and Moonlight both won, both about black people. So the idea that Americans are not willing to go see a movie with primarily black people, like, what are you talking about? I just don't see the evidence for any of that. And there's this kind of virtue signaling that's now going around, people saying they love the movie a little more than they do because they want to prove that they went to see a movie with black people and liked it. I think that's really dumb. The movie's good. Is it Citizen Kane? No, it's not Citizen Kane. Is it a very good Marvel movie? Sure. Okay. The politics didn't go beyond that, though. So it's not just it's important for black kids to see a black superhero, which I find a dubious measure. I don't think it's important for white kids to see a white superhero. I think it's fine for white kids to see a black superhero, like Black Panther. I think it's fine for black kids to see a white superhero. I don't care. It makes no difference to me. But there's something beyond that. So Carvel Wallace wrote this in the New York Times, quote, "No one knows colonization better than the colonized, and black folks wasted no time in recolonizing Wakanda. No genocide or takeover of land was required. Wakanda is ours now. We do with it as we please." And then he said also in this article that there's a video posted to Twitter in December, which has since gone viral. 3 young men seen fawning over the Black Panther poster at a movie theater. One jokingly embraces the poster while another asks rhetorically, "This is what white people get to feel like all the time?" There's laughter before someone says, as though delivering the punchline to the most painful joke ever told, "I would love this country too." Except nobody's ever gone to see a Captain America movie and said, "Wow, look, a movie with a white hero. I'm so excited. He's white." Nobody does that in America. That's not a thing. And they certainly don't go to a movie and say, "Wow, look, a movie with all white people and all the black people are bad," because that would be a racist movie. That would be Birth of a Nation. That's bad. Right? So, no, this is not true. Okay, so what are the politics that are actually in the movie? I didn't politicize it. You politicized it. So now I have to break down the politics. Sorry, I have to do that. Shouldn't ruin your experience of the film. It's a good film. Okay, so here's what's good. Martin Luther King defeats Malcolm X. So there are 2 main characters in the film. One is T'Challa, who is a stolid Chadwick Boseman, and he sort of plays the MLK figure. He's taking over for Wakanda. So I have to explain the plot of the film. So spoilers ahead. Okay, if you don't want to hear the spoilers, tune out now. Here are the spoilers. So there's a fictional kingdom that does not exist because none of this exists, right? It's Marvel Universe. But we're going to pretend that it does exist for purposes of this conversation, because when you analyze the politics of a film and the messages that are being promoted by the film, you have to take it on its own terms. So here's what's going on. There is a country called Wakanda. Wakanda was hit with a meteorite that is filled with vibranium. Vibranium is basically unobtainium. It is the greatest metal that has ever been created. It can heal spinal wounds. It can give you visions of your forefathers. It can do anything, vibranium. It's just unbelievably cool crap. And it can turn your entire civilization, apparently, so long as there are no white people in your civilization, it can turn your entire civilization into a fully westernized, fully liberal place with gay rights and women running the military and women running all the science, running all the science institutions and all this. Outside cultural influences don't matter. All that matters in this universe is that a big meteorite landed right here and that there were no white people to ruin it. That's pretty much the premise of Wakanda. And then Wakanda hides from everybody, but they still have the greatest country ever without any trade. So they have this metal, but the metal magically can grow things, and it can make everything super cool. It can be isolationist. You can have a complete state with no outside interference at all. Now, pause. In real life, this doesn't work out for anyone. Japan was the closest thing to this. America basically opened Japan with a couple of gunboats. Hey, China was like this. In the 1860s, the United States sent a couple of gunboats into China during the Boxer Rebellion and basically took over during the Opium Wars, and basically took over large swaths of China and opened it to trade. So this is not accurate. Okay, when you cut yourself off from the outside world, it typically makes you weaker, not stronger. But put that aside. Okay, so Wakanda is fantastic. It's the greatest place ever. But Wakanda didn't help out black people around the world when black people were suffering at the hands of white people. So the king of Wakanda, before T'Challa, was T'Chaka. That's his dad. T'Chaka had a brother. His brother was sent as a spy to Oakland. Why would you send a spy to Oakland? No one knows. Okay, no, what's in Oakland? Were you trying to get the Raiders playbook? There's nothing going on in Oakland that needs spying on. If you're going to send a spy, you send him to Washington, D.C., right? Did the Russians spend time sending their spies to help Trump in Oakland? No. Okay, so that's stupid. But they send him to Oakland. He sends his brother to Oakland. And his brother in Oakland then turns into basically like a Black Panther, like an actual militant guy who says that America, he gives a whole speech about how America is filled with discrimination and how black people in America are essentially living in poverty because the white people have flooded their neighborhoods with drugs and over-policing. There's an actual Black Lives Matter speech in the middle of the film. Okay, then he tries to smuggle some vibranium out to all of these Black Panther-type groups, and T'Chaka has to kill him. So T'Chaka kills his brother. The brother had a son. The brother's son is Michael B. Jordan, who grows up to be Killmonger. His entire agenda is, Wakanda has all of this awesome vibranium. Why don't we help out oppressed peoples around the world overthrow their colonialist masters? Okay, that's the premise of the film, and that's the conflict. T'Challa wins, and Killmonger loses. So MLK defeats Killmonger. That's good, right? MLK's program is better than Malcolm X's program. Militants and separatism is not better than integration and the belief that life should get better for everybody. However, the film's real message is that Killmonger is right. Okay, it's impossible to watch the film and not feel sympathy for Killmonger because of the way the script is written. That's for a couple reasons. One, Wakanda's incredible. In this film, the United States is garbage for black people. Terrible place to live for black people. Now, again, break to real life. America is the best place on earth for black people. There is no better place on planet Earth for black people as a group of human beings, just like there is no better place for women or Jews or any place else on planet Earth for anyone than the United States. Just a fact. Okay, measure it in terms of income, measure it in terms of lifestyle, however you want to do it. America is a fantastic place for black people. That does not justify colonialism. It does not justify slavery. Evil things are evil, but that is not the same thing as saying that black people in the United States right now are somehow under the boot of the white supremacist institution, which is sort of the premise of the film. So the United States in the film is garbage and Wakanda is great. That being the case, Killmonger's actually right. He's suggesting that black people in the United States are oppressed and that the system in the United States is legitimate because of colonialism and slavery, and therefore you have to overthrow that with violence. That seems like not the worst logic. Right? That doesn't seem completely wrong. Now, the reason it's wrong in real life is because colonization can be wrong and unjustifiable, and so can slavery. But the suggestion that the problems of modern-day Africa lie in colonization and slavery, as opposed to a lot of internal problems that have existed for centuries in many places around the world, including in Africa, and that those problems continue today, that's too simplistic. Okay, that's too simplistic to blame that on colonization and slavery, because that's silly. Okay, but the message is the wrong message here, which is that Killmonger is basically correct. There are a couple lines in here that underscore this. One of the people in the film who's sort of the Q figure, as in James Bond, Q, one of the people in the film is the sister of T'Challa, and for no reason at all, she just calls a white guy white boy. She calls Bilbo Baggins white boy for no reason, and then she also she calls him colonizer, like literally for no reason. He walks out of bed and she goes, "Don't surprise me like that, colonizer." It's like, really? Yeah, you just drop that in the middle of a film and it's totally cool because all white people are colonizers now? By the way, the United States, the least colonizing power in the history of great powers. Okay, so that some of the stuff that I dislike, there's also some rips against the U.S. military. The solution at the end of the film is apparently not militants, but spending lots of money in the inner city. So T'Challa decides that he's gonna buy up the portion of Oakland where his cousin grew up, and he's gonna spend a lot of money on STEM technologies or some such. We've tried that. It has not been a giant success. The problem inside a lot of communities, failing communities in the United States, white, black, and green, is lack of fathers, crime rates that are too high, lack of social institutions, not lack of monetary investment. We've spent lots of money on the war on poverty. It has not been particularly effective. There's some mixed messaging on walls. We learned that walls are bad. One of the characters actually said, I think it's T'Challa, he says, we don't need to build walls, we need to build bridges, except for the fact that the entire Wakandan empire is built because of a wall, and that 2 of the 4 people who have entered Wakanda have tried to destroy Wakanda. So that's not a really great immigration program, apparently. But not everything is, all the messages are bad. It says that women can be great at science, which is fine. It says that it's good. I mean, great. It says that race is not an obstacle to success, which is true and good. I hope people take away the good messages and not the bad, but there is the full breakdown of that.
I'm offended by the language of uprising applied to people who are breaking into other black people's stores and looting them. This is a lack of values. And people who are destroying private property, destroying cop cars, in an uprising against what exactly? Against the black police chief, against a mostly minority police force, against the black mayor, against the black president, against the black attorney general, against against a city council that is 9 of 15 are black and all 15 are elected Democrats. What is the uprising against? What is it seeking to achieve? I still don't see what exactly the riots are seeking to achieve. Bottom line is, this is all... It all could be boiled down to just act like a mensch. Act like a human being. Honestly, it's not useful to riot, it's not useful to break things, it's not useful to throw rocks at people. And the idea that we're supposed to sort of correlate your level of outrage.
I'm going to stick to the 30 seconds on this.
The last sentence. The last sentence. Yeah. The idea that we're supposed to correlate your level of outrage with a certain level of justification. In other words, the more outraged you are and the more angry you are, the more justified you must be, is absolute nonsense.
How can you argue that racism is not a driving factor in income inequality?
Because it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with culture. And when you have a culture that doesn't, you know what? Explain to me. You explain to me why black kids aren't graduating high school. Explain that one to me. Explain to me why black kids are shooting each other in rates significantly higher than whites are shooting each other. Explain to me why 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murder. Explain to me why the number of black kids in prison, not for innocent reasons, not for walking down the street and getting pulled into a prison, is so high. Explain, if it has nothing to do with culture, explain to me why the single motherhood rate in the black community jumped from 20% to 70% in the same course of time that the civil rights movement has made such tremendous strides. Is America more racist now than it was in 1960? And if it is, please explain to me how that happened.
Anybody can jump in. It's an open mic there.
But there has to be racism. You can't say there's no racism.
Without evidence?
No. I'm just saying that I don't know which animal. Maybe we're talking about dogs or something. I'm talking about human beings, and I'm like, human beings are most likely going to have racial prejudices. I'm just so sorry. I'm just so sorry. I don't know. I come from planet Earth.
Charles, I want to ask you a question. So your default is that when there is no evidence, racism is the deciding factor. That is your default.
No, I was not saying that. I'm just saying that you're going to have sexists, you're going to have racists, you're going to have all this stuff. I mean, I'm just saying that.
I agree it exists, but the problem that I'm seeing, and this is the problem with the general conversation, is that there's no solution in simply saying there's racism out there. How does that solve anything? I mean, when you talk about there's institutional racism, what does that mean? Show me a law that is racist in intent, and we will agree. Show me a police officer who commits a racist act like we saw in South Carolina, right, where a police officer shot a black man running away and it was obviously unjustified, and I will agree. But you need, the idea that you can craft a narrative based on no racism because it just must be somewhere out there in the ether, that doesn't solve problems for anybody and creates more problems for people because now they grow up in a milieu and an environment where they are told that every obstacle they face is from some shadowy, nameless, faceless group who is out to get them simply because of the color of their skin. They'll never succeed in that environment. On the Black Lives Matter idea, I want to find the people. I want to find the people alongside you who think Black lives don't matter. I'm still looking for those people. Really, I mean, like the implication is, of course, that for a bunch of people out there, for some reason, they're fine with black people getting shot in the street for no reason. Hands up, don't shoot was based on a lie. That's problematic. The idea that there is a huge number of black young men who are being shot for no reason by police officers is not statistically true. It's just not statistically true. The fact is that according to statistical studies at John Jay College, if you are a white man in a similar confrontation with police, you have a better chance of being shot by police than if you are a young black man. More white men are shot by the police every year in the country than young black men are shot by police in the country. The idea that there is a spate, and there's an easy proof. We know all of their names. We know all of their names. When there are 30 million black men in America. Okay, when we know President Obama said that we have a spate, it's a slow rolling crisis. Once every couple of weeks we have a case that's under dispute. So let's take his statistic. Okay, so let's say it's 26. Not one is too many, and we all agree. But is it really a slow rolling crisis with a broad trend across the nation when there are 30 million black people in the entire country? And 26 people are shot under disputed circumstances, and probably at least half of those, the cop is at least justified. In Michael Brown, he was justified. Okay, and
Let
so
me
basing it on
interject
falsities,
here,
you can't base
because
a narrative on lies.
we're